At our gender reveal, my husband's mother snatched the mic and announced, "We're naming her after my late husband." End of discussion. My husband smiled proudly. I took a sip of my water and said, "Good. I'll let the judge know during the custody hearing." Gasps all around. I'm Tara Whitmore. Well, I was Tara Whitmore. I've been going by my maiden name again lately, Tara Dalton. I'm 33, live in Asheville, North Carolina, and work at a local art gallery that's a weird mix of hipster, old money, and confused tourists. It's quiet most days, which suits me fine. I love what I do. I like paint on my hands, and I like that people tell stories through color. Before all this, I thought my life was fine. Not perfect, not fairy tale, but comfortable. Stable. Or maybe I just convinced myself it was. My husband, well, ex-husband now, Miles, worked in finance. He had this tidy little office downtown that always smelled like cinnamon gum and leather. He made good money, wore tailored shirts, had a closet full of brown shoes that all looked the same but weren't, according to him. We met at an art charity auction 7 years ago. He was there schmoozing a client. I was there helping set up the event. He liked that I had paint on my jeans and didn't care. I liked that he had a deep voice and the kind of laugh that made people turn to look. We moved fast. Married within a year. I was in love. I was. But somewhere along the line, something shifted. Nothing explosive. Just a million little cracks we pretended not to see. I noticed how he'd shut down when I brought up wanting kids. How he always talked about building a legacy instead of starting a family. I ignored it, chalked it up to him being practical. Then came the trying. 2 years of peeing on sticks. Charting cycles. Hoping. Crying when it didn't happen. Miles started pulling away, saying he was under a lot of pressure at work. I stopped telling him how hopeless I felt after every negative test. I got pregnant last year. I was almost 11 weeks when I miscarried. That's when the first real fracture happened. He held my hand at the hospital, sure. He said all the right things. But once we got home, he went back to work the next morning like nothing happened. I couldn't even stand up straight without crying, and he was answering emails like it was just another Tuesday. Still, we kept going. Or at least I did. Then, somehow, against all odds, I got pregnant again. Naturally. No IVF. Just happened. I told Miles in the kitchen one morning. I had barely gotten the words out before he hugged me and said, "Guess we're finally getting our legacy." Not baby. Not miracle. Legacy. That word stuck in my ribs like a piece of dry bread. But I smiled, hugged him back. We were having a baby. That was all I wanted. When we hit the second trimester, Dolores, his mother, came barreling into the picture like a freight train. Dolores is, how do I put this? Imagine a cross between an Upper East Side debutante and a dictator. She's tall, always overdressed, and has this way of smiling that feels like she's about to ruin your life and enjoy it. She hated me from the jump. Said I was too artsy and emotionally disorganized, whatever the hell that means. She came to our house once and rearranged my spice rack because alphabetical order makes sense to normal people. So when Dolores offered to plan the gender reveal, I said no. Miles said yes behind my back. It'll mean a lot to her, he told me one night while we were brushing our teeth. She just wants to be involved. She wants to control everything, I said, spitting into the sink. He rolled his eyes. Let's just give her this one. Please. I gave in. Like I always did. Fast forward to the day of the reveal. We held it at the North Carolina Arboretum, this beautiful spot with gardens and trails. The weather was gorgeous. Not too hot, light breeze, sunlight dappling through the trees. I wore a flowy blue dress that barely fit over the bump. I had swollen ankles, a backache that made me walk like an old lady, and I was nervous, but also kind of excited. For a minute, I forgot all the crap and just felt happy. Until Dolores showed up in a cream-colored floor-length dress with lace sleeves and a fascinator. Yes, a fascinator. Like she was attending the royal wedding. She brought a full floral arch that she had professionally assembled. Without asking me, people were drinking mocktails and milling around. My sister, Marla, kept giving me the breathe, just breathe look. Then came the moment. Miles and I stood in front of everyone. A giant black balloon hovered between us, filled with pink or blue confetti. The crowd started counting down. 3, 2, 1. We popped it. Pink. Everyone clapped and cheered. I was honestly too stunned to react. I was having a daughter. A girl. I looked over at Miles. He looked like he'd just closed $1 million deal. I started crying real, quiet, overwhelmed tears. Then Dolores took the mic. She grabbed it from the MC like it was her birthright. "Thank you all for being here today," she said, beaming like she was Queen Charlotte. "This is a very special day for the Whitmore family." "A girl, how wonderful." I nudged Miles. "She wasn't supposed to speak." He whispered, "Let her say a few words." "It's fine." But it wasn't. Dolores cleared her throat dramatically. "As many of you know, my late husband, Gordon Whitmore, was a pillar of this community. A man of honor, dignity, and success. In his memory, we've decided," I froze. "We?" "That if the baby was a girl, we'd name her after him. Gordina. It's a beautiful, strong name. And that's final." I swear to God, you could hear birds stop chirping. A couple people clapped. Dolores stood there, proud as hell. I turned to Miles. "What the hell is she talking about?" He looked sheepish but said, "We talked about it. I thought you'd come around." I stared at him. I don't know what came over me, but I felt something snap inside. This wasn't just about the name. It was everything. The control, the secrets, the way he let his mother bulldoze my life. And the final straw? I already knew he was cheating. I'd found the messages 3 weeks earlier. A woman named Sierra. They were texting at 11 p.m. about missing each other and how it felt so right. I had screenshots, dates, even a hotel receipt. I hadn't confronted him yet. I wanted to wait, wanted to do it on my terms. So I looked out at that crowd, smiled politely, and said, in the calmest voice you could imagine, "Good. I'll let the judge know during the custody hearing." Gasps. Literal gasps. Miles paled. Dolores looked like someone smacked her with a Bible. "What did you just say?" she hissed. I took another sip of my water. I said, "You can call her whatever you want, but I'll make sure the name you pick doesn't end up on the birth certificate. Because I'm filing for divorce." And with that, I turned and walked straight to my sister's car, my bump swaying, my feet aching, but my spine straight as a rod. I don't really remember the drive home that night. I sat in Marla's passenger seat, just staring out the window while she mumbled something about how she knew Dolores was going to pull something, and Gordina? Seriously? But I wasn't really listening. My head was full of static. I kept replaying the look on Miles's face. Not shock. Not even guilt. Just annoyance. Like I'd embarrassed him. That was the real kicker. I'd just made a public scene at our gender reveal, well, his mother's gender reveal, and instead of chasing after me, or calling, or even texting, he stayed there. Smiling, shaking hands, probably telling everyone I was just hormonal. When we pulled into Marla's driveway, I didn't even get out right away. Just sat there. She turned to me and said, gently, "You okay?" I gave her a tired smile. "Define okay. You want me to run him over?" That actually made me laugh. A little. Maybe. Just clip him. Kneecap. We went inside, and she made me a grilled cheese with tomato soup, like she used to when I got dumped in high school. Her guest room was already made up with fresh sheets. She didn't ask how long I was staying. I laid in bed that night, one hand on my belly, the other under my head, and just stared at the ceiling fan turning. I kept waiting for my phone to buzz. But it didn't. The next morning, I woke up to 100 texts from people who were at the party, from people who heard about the party, even one from my old boss at the gallery. I heard about yesterday. Good for you. And I mean that sincerely. Not one from Miles. Not one. Until 2:12 p.m., when I got a short, 3-word text. "We need to talk." Oh, now he wanted to talk. I ignored it. Later that evening, Marla and I were folding laundry when the doorbell rang. We looked at each other, and she said, "If it's him, I swear it was him." Miles, in his expensive navy coat and sad puppy eyes, standing on my sister's porch like a man selling lies door to door. "I just want to talk to her," he said when Marla opened the door. "She doesn't want to talk to you," she said, arms crossed. You deserve a lot of things, Miles. A microphone to the head, for starters." I came to the door mostly because I was tired of hiding behind people. He looked surprised to see me. "Tara, can we go somewhere?" "No," I said. "Say what you need to say here." He hesitated. "Look, I get that you're upset." "Upset? I found your messages, Miles. I know about Sierra. Don't insult me by pretending this is just about a name." His mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. It didn't mean anything. We were going through a rough patch. I was confused. I tilted my head. "So you accidentally booked a hotel room while confused? That's fascinating." Tara, come on, no. You come on. You stood there while your mother announced our daughter's name like she was launching a new yacht. You didn't say a word. You let her do that. You let her take something sacred and turn it into a performance. He ran a hand through his hair. I was caught off guard too. No, you weren't, I snapped. She said, we decided. And you didn't deny it. You thought I'd just go along with it. Like I always have. He didn't respond. Just stood there, lips tight, like a man watching a house he built burn down. I looked him in the eye. I'm not naming her Gordina. I'm not raising her around that woman. And I'm definitely not staying married to someone who doesn't respect me enough to even pretend to care how I feel. Please don't do this right now, he said quietly. We're having a baby. Let's talk it out. Go to therapy. Do something. You should have thought of that before you started building a second life behind my back. He looked down. He had the decency to look ashamed. After a long pause, he said, can I at least come to the next appointment? And that's when the tiniest bit of me cracked. Because as much as I hated what he'd done, I couldn't lie, he was still her father. My baby's father. And I didn't want her to grow up resenting me, thinking I shut him out completely. I sighed. You can come. But that's it. Don't confuse it with anything else. He nodded, quietly, like a man who knew the door was closing, and it wasn't opening again. He left, and Marla came in from the hallway. Well, that went better than I thought, she said. I gave her a look. Really? She shrugged. Nobody screamed. Nobody threw anything. That's a win in my book. I wanted to laugh, but I just leaned back on the couch and rubbed my belly. Hey, she said softly. You don't have to be brave all the time, you know. It's okay to break down. I nodded. I will. Just, not tonight. The following week, I went to my OB appointment, and he showed up. Right on time. Held the door open for me like he still had the right to. We sat in awkward silence in the waiting room. He kept checking his phone. I kept staring at the fake plant in the corner. When the nurse called my name, I stood up and said, you can come back. But don't talk unless the doctor asks you something. He nodded. Quiet. Obedient. Too little, too late. During the ultrasound, we saw her. Tiny fingers. Little feet. She was flipping around like a gymnast, and for a moment, I almost forgot the rest. I smiled. Just a little. He whispered, she's beautiful. And she was. But I didn't respond. Just focused on her heartbeat. Steady. Sure. Nothing like the man beside me. When the appointment ended, he walked me to the car and asked, have you thought about names? I have, I said, putting on my seatbelt. He leaned against the car. Want to share? No, I said, shutting the door. I watched him in the mirror as I pulled away. He looked lost. But I wasn't. I knew exactly where I was going. About 2 days after that appointment, Dolores called me. Or rather, she called Marla, because I had already blocked her number the night after the gender reveal. Marla walked into the living room holding her phone at arm's length like it was covered in something sticky. She left a voicemail, she said. Want to hear it? I raised an eyebrow. Is it her usual tone? You know, disappointed matriarch meets passive-aggressive Baptist aunt. Marla grinned. Worse. She played the message on speaker. Tara, this is Dolores. I just heard about your public outburst at the gender reveal, and frankly, I'm appalled. This is a family matter. Airing your grievances like that was not only inappropriate, it was classless. I am trying to preserve a legacy, and you're acting like a rebellious teenager. You may be carrying a Whitmore child, but if you think that gives you the right to erase Gordon's name from this family story, you are gravely mistaken. Miles is under a lot of pressure right now, and you're not helping. Call me. We need to discuss what's best for this baby. The message ended. I looked at Marla. She blinked at me. Gravely mistaken? I let out a laugh so sharp it almost hurt. She really said I'm not helping. Like I'm the problem. She said erase Gordon's name, like you're burning down a church, Marla added. Gordon's been dead 10 years. I met the man once. At our engagement dinner. He called me Tina the whole time. Marla shook her head and flopped down beside me on the couch. So what now? I shrugged. She wants a war? She's gonna get it. That week, I finally pulled the trigger and met with my lawyer again. A woman named Deanna Long, mid-40s, sharp as a tack, zero tolerance for nonsense. She skimmed over the updated documents I'd emailed her. Custody plans. Financial disclosures. Screenshots of the messages between Miles and Sierra. She looked up at me. You want full legal custody? Yes, I said. I'm not saying he won't be involved, but I want decisions to be mine. School, medical, name, all of it. I don't want Dolores within 50 feet of her unless I say so. Do you have proof that she's unstable or a danger? Not technically. But I do have a video of her yelling at a florist over the tone of white roses at our wedding. She threw a centerpiece at the wall. Deanna smiled, dry and amused. That's a start. We talked through options. Filing now would be seen as aggressive, but waiting might give Miles time to build a stronger case. I had to be strategic. Careful. The court wasn't going to punish him just for being a jerk. I had to focus on what was provable. That night, I started keeping a journal. Everything Dolores said. Every time Miles flaked. Every appointment. Every moment of my pregnancy, good or bad. I was building a case, yes, but more than that, I was reminding myself that my voice mattered. That this child, this little girl, was coming into my world, not theirs. A week later, Miles asked if we could meet. Neutral location. Just to talk. I agreed. I picked a quiet cafe in Biltmore Village, the kind with mismatched mugs and French music playing too loud. I got there first and ordered chamomile tea. He showed up 5 minutes late in a suit like he was going to court. Maybe he thought dressing like a responsible adult would help. He sat down and gave me a polite smile. Thanks for coming. I nodded. What do you want? He sighed. I think we got off track. I know I made mistakes. Miles, I interrupted. You cheated. You lied. You stood there while your mother made a speech like we were naming a ship. This isn't about getting off track. This is about you burning the damn train. He didn't argue. He just looked tired. I've stopped seeing her, he said quietly. Sierra? He nodded. I told her it had to end. I stared at him. Because you wanted to fix things with me? Or because you realized the optics would hurt you in court? He flinched. Does it matter? Yes, I said, sharp and steady. It does. He took a deep breath. I want to be involved. I want to be there when she's born. At the hospital. I want my name on the birth certificate. I stirred my tea slowly. You will be there, if you respect the terms we agree on. And no, her name will not be Gordina. I know. I looked up. You do. He looked genuinely defeated. I never liked it either. But my mom, she made it sound like it was this huge honor. Like I'd be letting him down if I didn't fight for it. I leaned forward. Miles, your mother uses guilt like a weapon. And you keep handing her ammo. He looked away. I know. I've been in therapy. Since last month. That one caught me off guard. Seriously? Yeah. My firm's EAP program covers 6 sessions. I've gone to 3. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to believe he was trying. But part of me wondered if this was all just part of some performance. The image of the clean-cut, reformed husband who made one mistake. But I stayed quiet. Let him talk. I'm not asking for you to forgive me, he said. But I want to co-parent. I want to do right by her. You can, I said. But on my terms. She's not growing up thinking Dolores's name is law. She won't, he said, looking me in the eye. I didn't know if I believed him. But for now, that would do. We left it at that. Civil, cordial, no screaming. When I got back to Marla's, I told her everything. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed, face unreadable. You think he's sincere? She asked. I think he's scared. She nodded. Good. Let him stay scared. I smiled. I plan to. The next few weeks passed in a blur. I moved into a rental, small 2-bedroom house with peeling paint and hardwood floors that creaked when you walked too fast. But it was mine. It smelled like fresh lemon and lavender from the candles I bought. I painted the nursery a soft sage green, hung up a print of a moon and stars above the crib. I started calling her Lena, short for Magdalena, my grandmother's name. She was the only woman in my family who ever truly stood her ground, even when the world tried to silence her. I didn't tell Miles. Not yet. Dolores, of course, didn't go quietly. She sent letters. Actual handwritten letters. Who even does that anymore? One read, "You are tearing apart something sacred. This is bigger than just you. You'll regret this when your child grows up without tradition, without identity." I showed it to my lawyer. She added it to the file. I was still months away from delivery, but I was already preparing for battle. By the time I hit 37 weeks, I was big, uncomfortable, and very done. I was waddling everywhere, sleeping in 90-minute shifts and crying at dog food commercials. But in a weird way, I'd never felt more sure of myself. I had a plan. I had boundaries. And I had a daughter on the way who deserved a mother who wouldn't let anyone bulldoze her. Miles kept things civil. He came to the final 2 appointments, asked smart questions, brought me coconut water once. It felt transactional. We'd stopped pretending we were anything more than co-parents. Fine by me. Dolores, on the other hand, was unraveling. She tried to insert herself into everything, called the hospital to ask about visitor rules, told her book club I was naming the baby Gordina, despite everything. Even posted a photo of the ultrasound on Facebook with the caption, "Our little Gordon, reborn." I was livid. I took screenshots, sent them to my lawyer. Not because it was illegal, but because I wanted everything documented. Then she took it further. About 2 weeks before my due date, I got a letter from her attorney. A petition for grandparents' rights. Apparently, Dolores felt she was being unfairly denied a relationship with her grandchild and cited historical family contributions and emotional harm to the unborn child if she were excluded. I stared at the paper so long I thought my eyes might catch fire. Is she insane? Marla asked when I showed her. No, I said, carefully folding the letter. She's desperate. My lawyer, Deanna, handled it like a pro. North Carolina doesn't just hand out grandparents' rights because someone's feelings got hurt at a party, she said. She'd need proof of an existing relationship or evidence you're an unfit parent. She has neither. We filed a formal response and a protective order request for delivery and hospital access. I wasn't about to have Dolores show up in full pearls while I was pushing out a baby. When I finally went into labor, it was 2 a.m. after a very intense craving for pickles and caramel corn. Miles met us at the hospital. No drama, no shouting. He actually held my hand for part of it. For a moment, I remembered what it was like to believe he'd be my forever. Lena Rose Dalton was born just after noon. 7 pounds, 1 ounce. Healthy lungs. A head full of dark curls. And eyes that blinked up at me like she knew the whole story already. I didn't cry from pain, I cried from joy. Pure, aching joy. When the nurse handed me the birth certificate form, I filled it in without hesitation. Name: Lena Rose Dalton mother. Tara Dalton father. Miles Whitmore. I watched Miles as he read it. His eyes lingered on her name. She's beautiful, he said quietly. She is, I agreed. He didn't fight me on the name. Didn't say a word. I went home 3 days later to my little rented house that smelled like lavender. Marla stayed for the first week, helping with feedings, swaddles, the works. Lena was colicky and loud and perfect. Dolores didn't send a card. Or flowers. Just another letter. This one, an apology. Well, her version of it. I regret that things have turned so hostile between us. I only ever wanted what was best for the Whitmore line. I hope one day you'll come to see that. I didn't respond. I took the letter, folded it in half, and dropped it into a shoebox with all the others. I wrote evidence on the lid in Sharpie and stuck it on a closet shelf. 2 months later, the custody hearing began. We had already agreed to a schedule. Miles would have supervised visits twice a week at a parenting center for the first 3 months. Then, depending on how things went, we'd revisit. But the hearing was still required to finalize legal custody. Dolores showed up, of course. Full navy suit. Veil. Like someone had died. She wasn't even on the docket. She was told she couldn't testify. But she sat in the back of the courtroom anyway, arms crossed, looking like she was chewing glass. Miles testified first. He was composed, said all the right things, admitted to his mistakes. Told the judge he respected my wishes and was committed to co-parenting. Then it was my turn. I told the truth. About the messages. About the lies. About Dolores grabbing the mic at the gender reveal and announcing a name I hadn't agreed to. About the petition. The letters. The pressure. I didn't cry. I didn't raise my voice. I was calm. Unshakable. Deanna submitted the letter Dolores had sent to the hospital. The one where she claimed she was the child's true moral compass. We let that line sit in the air like a bad smell. The judge leaned back in his chair, removed his glasses, and said, "This court sees no reason to disrupt the child's primary care arrangement. Sole legal custody will be granted to the mother. The father will retain scheduled visitation as previously agreed. No other parties have standing at this time." Dolores stood up abruptly. "But Your Honor, the judge cut her off. Ma'am, if you speak out of turn again, I will have you removed from the courtroom." I didn't turn around. I didn't need to see her face. But God, I wish I had a photo. Afterward, in the hallway, she stormed up to Miles. "You let this happen," she hissed. "You let her take everything from us. He looked at her for a long time, then said, "No, Mom. You helped her take everything from me." And he walked away. That was the last time I ever saw her. I don't know where Dolores is now. I assume still bitter, still plotting ways to get invited back into our lives. But that door? It's bolted. Miles kept showing up. To visits. To check-ins. He even started helping with doctor's appointments. He stopped trying to win me back. Just showed up as a dad. That was enough. A year later, Lena took her first steps across the hardwood floor of our living room, arms outstretched, giggling like she'd invented walking. She doesn't know about courtrooms or confetti balloons or grandmothers who weaponize tradition. She just knows her name, and that her mom never let anyone take it from her.